Hello there, Dan the Weatherman here. Hey, welcome to my weather show. This is the global edition where I take a look at things going on around the globe. And over the last several weeks, we've really seen Mother Nature flex the climate extremes, flex her muscles. She's not letting up at all. There's a lot to go on. Of course, if you take one look at parts of the Pacific, this week we're talking typhoons. We've been seeing torrential rain to parts of China. There is actually more on the way as well. Let's look at temperatures as well. Temperatures have been a big thing. Above normal temperatures. North America has been one spot where we've seen temperatures, phenomenal temperatures. This is the map of the ups and the downs where you see temperatures. The yellow, of course the orange and the red, those are temperatures above normal, blue below, and we see more of the above these days. This particular spot, western parts of North America, again. One other spot to watch out for, Greenland. Some of that heat will track through. There'll be a zone of warmth developing. And also, heads up parts of Siberia. We could be seeing temperatures this week approaching 30 degrees, very, very close to the Arctic Circle, if not north of that, with a good zone of some warmth. And watch as we run our way through the course of the sequence too. You can see parts of Australia. That zone of red, they really come into life. Temperatures well into the 30s. There could be a few spots in the interior getting close to 40. And yeah, it is still winter. Look at the surges of cold coming out of the Southern Ocean from Antarctica. Really, Mother Nature, boom, opening the doors. But that zone of colour there, look at that Greenland, well above normal. We could be seeing some coastal location, perhaps 10, 15 degrees, maybe even close to 20 degrees Celsius. They should only be around 10 on coastal areas. Of course, the centre is still a big lump of ice, somewhat. The jet stream, looking at the wiggles, and that's the big problem these days. The jet stream is now like a wiggly piece of skipping rope that used to be more of a meandering sort of thing. Putting it into motion, the one thing that jumps out, the big mountain of warm air. The jet stream goes north, warm air moves in, and that dome forms. Hotter than normal, again across western parts of North America. That big bubble there, you dive down here, you push it up there, that is your zone of warmth over Greenland. The same time though, we see cold, unsettled, yucky weather like we've seen over a good part of the summer in the Northern Hemisphere, eastern parts of Canada and the northeast of the US. You go up there, you go down there, just like the old seesaw, ding ding. That's unsettled weather there towards the western parts of Europe. And remember, you go up again, you get the zone of warmth, as I mentioned there. Parts of Siberia, temperatures close to 30 degrees, well above normal for the time of year. Look at this. And one thing as this runs through, look at the Arctic. You should be, of course, still seeing places with some blue below freezing. Look at all the green. Of course, there's less sea ice here. That water is warmer than normal. That brings the fuel to the storms where you see these flicks of white, temperatures better than 100 degrees Fahrenheit across the northern plains, northern Rockies again. And did you see some of those flicks of yellow and orange? Those are those coastal parts of Greenland that could be 15, maybe even close to 20 degrees Celsius. And of course, all that heat there to the interior parts of Russia. Quite unsettled to parts of Europe. That's down to an area of low pressure, a big cut-off low and surging in the energy coming in, of course, from parts of eastern Canada. Look at this, like lumps of colour just churning their way through. That, of course, is wet weather moving on to some significantly sodden ground. Eastern parts and central parts of Europe have seen loads and loads of that rain. Of course, the flooding. You think, well, how much will this churn out? Most of the rain probably falling across the Alps. That could be as much as 50 to 100 millimeters of rain. Western parts of Germany and towards Belgium, more than likely we're talking 20 to perhaps 50 millimeters of rain. Certainly don't need that much. Parts of Scotland and western parts of Scandinavia seeing the lion's share as well. Quite unsettled as that tracks through. This rainfall is nothing compared to what we've seen over parts of China. Zhangzhou, where we picked up an entire year's worth of rain in the span of 3 or 4 days. And you think, how on earth do we get this so quickly? How do you get moisture out? And these are the storms that formed across this section of China that just dumped all of this rain, some 600 millimeters of rain, more than half a meter of rain in one day. And it's all down to getting more moisture into the atmosphere. Because of a warming planet, we can put more moisture into the atmosphere. And this is one thing we look at when we look at weather maps, is what we call the precipitable water. This section of Asia here, that red is very, very juicy air where you have 3 to 4 inches of rain that can be squeezed out at any one time. More juicy air, more rain to come out. But then how do you get those clouds to billow up to drag out that moisture. You need things going on. And in this particular case, these were the torrential downpours, the thunderstorms here across this section of China. Shanghai sitting there. And what we had, remember, this very juicy air coming off the warmer than normal sea, the Yellow Sea, that was surging in, meeting, of course, the land going up, and at the same time you had winds in the higher levels meeting this. So you get winds going like that, all they can do is go up, the clouds billow, they grow, you get these massive storms, and they kept back building, meaning the storms would go that way, more would be forming. So you had like Mother Nature with her fire hose in one place, dumping all of that juicy air in one place. That is how we saw so much rain. And you know, we're not done. This week we will see more torrential rain, if not several months worth of rain to eastern parts of China. This is how we are looking now. That swirl there is Typhoon Infa, looking a bit ragged, but it's what's going to happen to this as it makes landfall right to eastern China, very close to Shanghai. Japan sitting there, notice the darker area, sitting in the quiet patch, but it's this swirl here that could make things rather wet and rather windy for a time for the Olympics. Looking at the map with the shear, showing us what's going on. Japan sits there. That zone of green and yellow has been the sweet spot that has allowed Typhoon Infa to develop. Typhoons need lighter winds aloft to get everything going, and that is how that has formed. This probably won't develop into a typhoon, this other swirl. It's got too much red, too much shear, meaning stronger winds will blow the edges. It'll probably come in as a tropical storm, maybe depression, just a wet and windy system. But this one here, more of a problem. This is how the rainfall will go over the course of the week, the entire week. There it is making landfall, and normally with tropical cyclones they move in and then they move away. They dump their moisture, lose their warm water source and fade. But look at this and watch for that particular one there as we run through the course of the week. That churns in the wet and windy weather to Japan. This one makes landfall near Shanghai and it just sits there. It's not moving. It's like somebody's put a pin in it and it just doesn't move. That is a whole week. The other one churns through, there'll be more lows moving in, so it'll be an unsettled time to parts of Japan for the Olympics. But rainfall wise, look at this colour here. This is in excess of probably half a metre of rain in the span of just several days. Half a metre, if not more. Shanghai and spots south. There'll be easily over 100 millimeters of rain to parts of Japan, higher ground. Look at that zone, and that's gain coming out of that zone, that very, very juicy air. You think, well, how does this happen? Well, we're now seeing the jet stream a lot further north than normal in summer times, and with that, that's the steering wind. There is the typhoon, and there's nothing to push it. It comes in out of the juicy sea, moves on land, and then it's just shh. Remember, Mother Nature's fire hose. In one place, it doesn't move. That's the cutoff low that provides that weather. That, of course, has more shear, but that will be significant rain. But as I say, for the Olympics, could be a bit of a wet and more unsettled spell for the course of this week. That's the weather for now.